Yeah,
Um, are we playing the video? Should I start?
it's already played.
Okay, we couldn't see anything. Anyways, no worries. We are live right now, right? On YouTube.
Yes.
A very, very warm welcome to everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whichever part of the world you are logging in from. बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आप सबका एक बार फिर एक बहुत बड़े मैं कहूंगी महासंग्राम ऑफ सेलिब्रेशन ऑफ इंक। जी हाँ, हमारे जो ग्रुप का नाम है, हमारी जो कम्युनिटी का नाम है, ये है यूनाइटेड बाय इंक। जो 8 साल पहले एक छोटे से इंटेंशन के साथ शुरू हुआ था कि जो इंसान, जो भी व्यक्ति अगर किसी भी क्रिएटिव फॉर्म से ताल्लुक रखते हैं, फिर वो राइटिंग हो, म्यूजिक हो, म्यूजिक से रिलेटेड राइटिंग हो या आर्ट हो, किसी भी टाइप का एंटरटेनमेंट फॉर्मेट भी हो, हर तरीके से कैसे हम उन सब को जोड़ सकते हैं जो किसी भी टाइप का ऐसा काम कर रहे हैं। और इस काम की शुरुआत, इस मुहिम की शुरुआत की थी सपना केकरे जी ने। और मैं आई इनवाइट सपना दी ऑन कैमरा। वेलकम सपना दी एंड हार्टिएस्ट कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस टू यू। आप म्यूट पे हैं
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kalpana.
because it's not an easy thing to do something selflessly day in and day out without expecting anything from anyone but still giving so much out to the community. So hats off to you. And 8 is just a number. All we need to do is usko thoda sa aisa tilt kar do, it becomes infinity. So wish you grand success infinity, because दिल से मैं चाहती हूँ कि ये जो मुहिम आपने शुरू की है, इसको पूरी तवज्जो मिले पूरे, नॉट ना सिर्फ भारत में, अक्रॉस द ग्लोब। पीपल लिसन टू इट, पीपल जॉइन दिस, बिकॉज यहाँ किसी का कुछ नहीं जा रहा है, सिर्फ आ रहा है। देर इज कम्युनिटी कमिंग, देर आर पीपल कमिंग, देर आर क्रिएटिव फॉर्म्स कमिंग, देर आर so many ideas being shared, people are getting to know each other. It's amazing. So thank you so much, and wish you all the very best for the 80, 800 and so many years to come. And तो आज पहला दिन है इनॉग्रेशन का। 15 दिन का जो हमारा ये सेलिब्रेशन है, और सुबह इनॉग्रेशन हुई थी जो कि बहुत ग्रैंड तरीके से हुई थी। और आज हमारा भी सेकेंड सेशन के लिए हम जमा हुए हैं यहाँ पे। तो मैं देखती जा रही हूँ, लोग जुड़ रहे हैं। बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आप सबका। इज देयर एनी वे वी कैन लुक एट द चैट्स?
I'll
Yeah,
share the links also with you, Ramal.
sure. Yeah. I'm going to put myself on mute and listen and watch. If there are any live chats, we'll be able to. Yes. So, सेकेंड सेशन, और ये वो सेशन है जो हर लेखक और हर पढ़ने वाला बहुत बेसब्री से इंतजार करता है यूनाइटेड बाय इंक के ग्रुप में। दिस इज कॉल्ड ऑथर्स कॉर्नर। जी हाँ, हमारी कोशिश ये होती है कि किसी एक ऑथर से आपको मिलवाया जाए। क्यों? क्योंकि जितना जरूरी पढ़ना है, उतना जरूरी उस इंसान के साथ ताल्लुक रखना, या उन जिन्होंने लिखा है उनसे, उनके लिखावट के बारे में, उनकी लिखाई के बारे में, उनके सब्जेक्ट मैटर के बारे में समझना उतना ही इंटरेस्टिंग हो जाता है। और कहते हैं ना कि बुक्स आर द ओनली थिंग दैट हेल्प यू ट्रैवल विदाउट मूविंग योर फीट। बट आज हम बहुत शुक्रगुजार हैं, एंड वी फील ऑनर्ड टू हैव समवन विद अस who has traveled miles to not just get his books ready, but to make sure that he gets inside the skin of that subject matter so deeply कि वो अपने ही सब्जेक्ट में जो उन्होंने लिखा है, जिनके बारे में मैं अभी बताऊंगी, उन्होंने सॉरी sorry sorry that audio was doubling. So आज जो हमारे साथ जुड़ रहे हैं, पहले मैं उनका एक छोटा सा एक ऐसा ग्रैंड एंट्री दे दूं विद ड्रम रोल्स एंड ऑल क्योंकि कई बार क्या होता है ना, इंडिया इट्स connected mostly by this one thread called films and film music. Okay, कोई भी इंसान ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है जो फिल्मी बातों से या फिल्मी गानों से वंचित रहा हो। किसी ना किसी तरीके से हम फिल्मी गानों को, फिल्मी डायलॉग्स को, मुखड़ों को, अंतरों को, ट्यून्स को अपने आम जीवन में, रोजमर्रा की भाषा में जरूर इस्तेमाल करते हैं। लेकिन किसी से भी 90% of the people whom we talk about Indian films or Indian film music, probably they will know about the singers, the actors on camera, the to some extent music directors, or probably the lyricist if they are really into music. पर अगर मैं किसी से पूछूं कि क्या आपको पता है आपका जो पसंदीदा गाना है उसमें सितार किसने बजाई है, या फिर उसमें फ्लूट किसने बजाया है, या फिर अरेंजमेंट नाम की भी एक चीज होती है जिसको कि बहुत मेहनत से सजाया जाता है, तो हो सकता है आप अपनी आंखों को चमका रहे होंगे बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल डू नॉट नो अबाउट दिस. एंड हियर कम्स अ जेंटलमैन who travels far, far away from New Zealand, comes to India, and ना सिर्फ वो फिल्मी गानों के बारे में बात करते हैं, फिल्मी बातों के बारे में डिटेल्स देते हैं. ही गोes deeper into writing a book, something which is much beyond just what is there on surface level. पूरे सम्मान के साथ, पूरे आदर के साथ आज के जो हमारे ऑथर्स कॉर्नर के गेस्ट हैं, मैं उनको यहाँ पे इनवाइट करना चाहूंगी. इनका एक छोटा सा तारुफ दे देती हूँ. अ डॉक्टरेट ऑफ फिलोसफी ऑफ म्यूजिक फ्रॉम कैंट स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटी, a professor of ethnomusicology with University of Auckland, New Zealand, a visiting professor in major universities across the world, and author of two very interesting books, which is Behind the Curtains, Making Music in Mumbai's Film Studios, and Brass Baja, Stories from the World of Indian Wedding Bands. I mean, और मैं क्या ही बोलूं, पूरे आदर और सम्मान के साथ मैं यहाँ इनवाइट करती हूँ मिस्टर ग्रेगरी डी बूथ. Greg, thank you so much for gracing the occasion. Thank you so much for joining us in the UBI family. It's an absolute honor and pleasure to have you with us here.
Well, thank you. That's too much, Kalpana ji, but thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
I have not even started. Your profile and your CV is so long that I should have started at 2 o'clock for that.
Don't start.
So, we have limited time in hand, so I will not beat around the bush, and we'll probably start with the start. I'll start with a very plain vanilla corporate question. Why India? And how India?
India, well, when I was a young man, India was around. I'm originally from US, and at that time in the 60s and the 70s, Pandit Ravi Shankar ji and Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab and Ala Rakha Khan Sahab and many other great musicians who were doing a lot of touring, and their LPs were around. And so I got into it. I just sort of was curious, and I said, "What's this?" And from there, I eventually, in the 70s, then also Shakti came with Ustad Zakir Hussain Saab.
Yeah.
And so I was very interested in that, and I found a pair of tabla, and I started learning to play tabla. And eventually, I went to sit with Zakir Bhai, and also with his father, Ustad Al-Rakha Khan Sahab. And so I got into the music, the classical music,
Yeah, yeah.
And so from there, other things happened, and I ended up doing these other kinds of projects that you were mentioning in other areas beyond classical music. But I started in the classical music world.
Yeah, that's my next question to you. I mean, you've been so closely associated with Ustad Zakir Hussain
Hmm.
and his family. So, and your inclination towards classical music of India has been more deep rooted than the other popular form. What drew you towards the popular music, or think about writing in that
Hmm.
segment?
Well, it's true. I started, and I still listen to classical music a lot. I mean, we're going later today to the event that they're having at Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan for Al Rakha Khansab.
Yeah.
Um, but even very early on, I would be with Zakir Bhai, and he also would talk about film music because he played in the line a little bit, not a lot,
Yeah.
but he played in the line. And he started showing me some of the films that were very classically oriented, Janaka Payal Baje
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and other
yeah.
things like this. And so I started listening like that, sort of looking at the class, trying to find classical pieces. And gradually I listened to more and more of it. And so I became interested, you can say. And so gradually I got into it that way.
Awesome. So, as you started talking about it, I would like you to elaborate it a little more. That
Mm,
when you were doing the research, when we are talking about the times which is 70s, 80s, and 90s, right? And that was the time when India was very different from what it is today, you know
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and information was not so easily available, or technology was definitely not this
Yeah.
grand. And so how different was the India that you have witnessed while researching for the books
Oh.
than it is today?
Well, I mean, as you're saying, it's a very, very different place. I came to India first in 1984.
Uh-huh.
Indira Gandhi ji was prime minister.
Yeah.
No, and through a series of coincidences and connections that I had in the States, we ended up living in Pune.
Oh, okay.
And at that time, Pune was a very small, very quiet, very Marathi little city. And I don't know what our neighbors thought of us, and I'm not sure how we managed it, but we got through it. But it was a very different place. There were no cell phones. Uh, I mean, one, booked trunk calls and wrote letters and all these
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I would come up and down on the Deccan Queen to see people in Bombay from Pune. And so it was a very different world. Uh, uh, and even in the 80s, when I got into well, it was still that way. I mean, we still didn't have cell phones. And at that time, you would sort of find out where somebody lived and you would go and knock on their door
Mm.
and just see if they were there and if they would talk to you because there was no way to do what we do now. We send a WhatsApp and we say, please, can I come in? But at that time, of course, none of that. So it was a very, very different world. And all the travel was by train. Um, and I could go on forever about that, but
No, please, please, we would love to know,
well,
because
it's so different.
that's something which the readers would love to. What happens is, when we know the struggles and when we know the process of writing,
Yeah,
when you open the book, it becomes even more interesting.
yeah. Well, it's almost there's no way to count. There's no way to measure that level of difference. I mean, everything about it was different. The food was different.
Yeah,
The language was different. The politics was different. The clothing was different. Ready made was just sort of coming along. I remember very early we were in Pune and our neighbor said, "There's a new restaurant that's just opened. It is very special. It's the first one in Pune. Come, come." So we went to have breakfast and it was an idli place. All right. I mean, now idlis are, but this was like a big event,
yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of thing. I mean, it's just, and the kurtas were shorter, and um, there's almost no end. There's no end to the difference. I mean, I remember, I'm originally, as I said, although I live in New Zealand, I've lived there now for 32 years. I am from the States originally, and one of the sort of very characteristic foods in America is peanut butter, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
And so as Americans, we said, we need peanut butter. Where do we find peanut? And we went to the big bazaar and we looked, well, not a big bazaar like that, but the market.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
looked
Local market.
all over the place just to find one jar of peanut butter. It was
Yeah.
it's very hard for me to really explain how different it all was. But it was, we had a lovely time. I mean, and it was a great time. There a lot of great musicians were alive, and the doctoral research I did was on tabla, and so
Mhm.
I was able to go meet, Pandit Shanta Prasad ji and Kisha Maharaj ji and Ustad Haq Hussain Khan Sahab and Gyangosh Babu and all these people who contributed so much to tabla and of course are no more. So I was very fortunate that way also.
It sounds so amazing that the names that you just took, most of the people who listen to Bollywood music, the Indian film music, probably have not dwelled into finding
Hmm.
those names and,
Yeah, yeah,
people behind them. So
yeah,
thanks so much. Thank
yeah.
you so much for, just putting that light on such an important aspect of film music.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go to the next question, which is a little personal, but it's important because does it help being a firang in India to get your appointments, to get inputs from your subject matters,
Yeah.
or it becomes difficult?
Well, it's both. It's both actually. It does often help, yes, because बाहर से आए तो काफी खास है, वक्त बहुत नहीं है, ये सब कुछ. So in that way, it can help. There's no
Yeah.
two ways about that.
Hmm.
But it's also there's so much you don't understand,
Hmm.
and there's so much you miss things and you don't know exactly how to do it, and you need to find the people who can help you. And
Hmm.
and the time is always pretty short. So, and I mean, I remember the first time we were coming, I had a research fellowship, and it
Hmm.
was this was from the United States, and I told a friend of mine who was from Pune, how much it was, and he said, "Oh, that's so much money. It'll be so easy," and I can't even remember what it was, but he was thinking, so to speak, like a person in India who was all set up, and he didn't sort of think about, well, okay, if you're coming from abroad, the travel is different, nothing is set up,
Yeah.
uh, all those things. So it was, there were a lot of difficulties involved in it too,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
certainly in the beginning, we got sick a lot.
Yeah. Oh
Uh,
yeah. Oh yeah.
at that time, it was all boiling everything, boil the water, boil the milk,
Yeah.
you know.
We are talking about pre-Bisleri era.
Yeah, previous Larry era, absolutely. And so it was a very different experience, and it was people were wonderful, and there were some people who really made it. जिसके बगैर कुछ कामयाबी तो नहीं हुआ हमारा बिल्कुल.
Hmm.
They just out of the goodness of their hearts were helping. you
Hmm.
know but so it was a mix of things, very hard but wonderful. And as you say, in some cases it would help that we were foreigners. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about behind the curtains.
Oh,
Those who don't know about it. ये एक ऐसी किताब है जहाँ पे normally जब हम even I don't want to say people do it or don't do it or whatever, but whenever people think about writing a book or documenting something about a particular segment industry, they start with A-listers.
mm,
They start with the stars on camera,
mm,
people who drive the business or who become the face of the industry.
yes,
You chose the faceless magicians. You
mm,
know, you talked about your business. The entire crux of behind the curtains is to highlight those innumerable magicians who make that 3 minute song worth its every minute, every second.
right.
What drove that, and what was that, and who inspired you to even think about that as a subject?
Well, the answer is a little complicated, but I was in India in the late 80s, and I had started a project on, as you mentioned before, the men who play for the Barats, the
Huh.
Badsawat. And so I was doing that. And so I was being exposed, of course, to a lot of film songs because that's what everybody plays for the Barat.
Hmm.
And so more and more, I was just hearing the songs and having to watch the movies. And I'd been watching the movies anyway because I liked them and I wanted to know more about the songs and the music. And also, frankly, it was good for my Hindi. So I was watching movies and watching movies. And as you say, one in the 80s, there wasn't much written about Bollywood or film song at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Rangoon Wala Saab had written that book, and there were a couple other books
Hmm.
barely published, you can say, in India, but very little. And but what there was, as you say, about the music directors. You heard about LP, you
Yeah,
heard about Pancham Da, but you didn't hear
yeah.
about anybody else. And so that was part of it. And the other part of it, as I said, was Zakir Bai, who did talk about that stuff and
Hmm.
who had played in the line. And so between those things, I began to think to myself, well, okay, we know who's composing the songs, but how are those songs actually getting onto the
Stage.
movie?
Yeah, yeah,
Who's actually playing?
yeah.
And so that's what motivated me to do it. I just wanted to find out who the people were who were actually making the music, playing
Awesome.
the recordings, all that stuff. So that way, gradually, that's sort of what directed me, you can say.
And if I may ask, and if you remember, who was the first artist you met and how was that experience? Do you want to share that?
Well, certainly. I mean, again, um, as you mentioned, I've had a relationship with Allah Raka Khan Saab's and his sons
Yeah,
for 45 years or something, or 50 years or something.
yeah.
And I knew Tawfiq, and
Mm.
Tawfiq, had played a lot in the line. That was a big part of what he did for a career. And so when I first came, I said to him, who can I talk to? And he very kindly introduced me to Kersey Lord.
Oh, lovely. So
You
he was
know,
your first interview?
and so he was yeah, we met. I mean, I mean, and this was also the beginning of cell phones. This was 2004. So I bought my first cell phone and got my first Vodafone SIM card.
Hmm.
It was easy at that time. And so I did call him, and we met at Otters, uh, over there on Carter Road, and so we talked, and that began the process. And he introduced me to more people, and from there it sort of spread out. But Kersi Baba was an enormous help, and he became a really good friend. And we
Awesome.
kept meeting all the time whenever I came, and when I would come for the Barsi for Al Raka Khan Sahib, I would always get the car and come pick him up in the morning. We would go, and make sure he had tickets and things. So we had a lovely I don't know what, 10, 15 years, friendship, until he passed away. But
Yeah.
so yeah, he was enormously helpful. Yeah. And
So
from
so
there, you know,
so you started with the lords of
yeah,
the
yeah,
Bollywood.
yeah, yeah. And at that time, his father was still alive,
Yeah,
so I got
yeah.
to meet Pawas Kaka. So,
Lovely.
I mean, I was in that way, very fortunate. I mean, one of the things he said to me at the beginning was, "Oh, you've come too late," and he was right, because a lot of
Yeah,
people were already gone, and the line
yeah.
was already on its last legs, you can say. But still, I got to meet a lot of people, who otherwise I would not have met. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like you just said, I mean, I'll just reiterate to the audiences here, ki
Ah,
the names that you are taking right now, please go note them down, Google them, or buy the book, read about them, because these are the people who have created umpteen number of gems, and these are the people probably whom we don't know. They are not the glamorous looking people who come on screen and take the awards and flaunt the best of the dresses, designer clothes or whatever, but they are the ones who have created the magic that we cherish, we listen to, and which has become cult and classic in its own way.
yeah.
So अच्छी बातों के बारे में तो बता दिया, कुछ बुरी बात भी बताइए, क्या डिफिकल्टी हुई इन मैं चाहती हूँ आप थोड़ी सी हिंदी में भी बोलिए, आपकी हिंदी लोगों तक पहुंचनी चाहिए।
अच्छा अच्छा। और ठीक है फिर। well I mean but that well तो ये बात जो आप कह रहे हैं तो ये मेरे जहन में आई कि क्योंकि फिल्म म्यूजिक यहाँ पर, फिल्म सॉन्ग यहाँ का पॉपुलर म्यूजिक होते हैं, बस
हम्म।
फिल्म फिल्म सॉन्ग फिल्म म्यूजिक नहीं है। जैसा
हम्म।
हॉलीवुड जो है ना, वहां पर वो म्यूजिक जो है बैकग्राउंड म्यूजिक होते हैं। अगर उनको एक गाना चाहिए तो एक पॉपुलर गाना लेते हैं बाहर
ओएसटी।
से और इस्तेमाल करते हैं। लेकिन यहाँ पर हर गाने जो हम जानते हैं अभी तक, वो गाने फिल्मों से आए और वो लोग ने बनाए, वो लोग अरेंज किया, वो लोग रिकॉर्ड किया। और जैसा आपने कहा, हमको इनका नाम तो नहीं जानते हैं।
हम्म।
और ये मुझे बहुत अजीब बात लगा, क्योंकि इन गानों को इतनी पॉपुलर होते हैं, सबको आते हैं। आपको पता है कि मैं
राइट।
इसी इसी मजमून पे कोच करता हूँ आजकल कि अभी तक 50 साल, 40 साल के बाद हम वो गाने जानते हैं और वो गाने सुनते हैं और
राइट।
गाते हैं भी। लेकिन काफी बहुत लोग हैं जो नहीं जानते हैं किसने बनाए, किसने रिकॉर्ड किया,
राइट।
किसने वो सैक्सोफोन बजाया, जो कैसे भी हो। तो
एब्सोल्युटली।
इस इसी बात तो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा और बहुत शौक आया इसी वजह से। तो ऐसा होते थे। मैं तभी, जब मैं आया वो 2004 था, और तभी वो कोई सेल फोन शुरू हुआ, लेकिन इंटरनेट नहीं, बहुत कम था।
वेरी वीक,
एयरबीएनबी
या।
नहीं था। तो मैंने एक not a paying guest, what was it, not like a paying guest, but it's a something else.
हॉस्टल काइंड ऑफ प्लेस।
No, it was like a sublet, but there's a woman.
या सबलेट ओनली।
You know what I
या।
mean?
या।
So I had one way up in Yari Road.
ओह। ओके।
It's a box. So, and I knew Bombay a little bit, not a lot.
या।
मैंने बताया कि मैं सन
पूना
84
में।
में यहाँ पर आया, और तभी बॉम्बे बहुत फर्क था, है ना। तभी हमने ऐसा कहा कि बॉम्बे में the water is very good. Everybody said the tap water in Bombay is very good at that time.
ओके।
I mean, it was like that then. And everybody was driving petrol cars who had a car, you
या।
know. So the air was very bad. I mean, now it's getting bad again, but at that time it was bad in a different way, you can say.
या।
And so I didn't know Bombay very well, and I didn't really learn it very well. But 2004 में जब मैं इसी मजमून पे आया, तभी वहां पर रहते थे, और कह सकते हैं कि मैं हर रोज 1 घंटे रहा ऑटो में।
वाओ।
1 घंटे
वाओ।
तकरीबन, कह सकते हैं, क्योंकि मैं वहां से, एक्सक्यूज मी, वहां से बांद्रा आने वाले था, खांडी वाले आने वाले था, जहां भी आने वाले था, है ना,
या।
किसी से मिलने के लिए। और तो, and there was no, even from Yari Road, train पहुंचने में you had to go to Andheri.
या। या। या।
Yeah,
या।
so there was no metro, there was no Uber, there was
So
nothing.
Yari Road is like the end of
Yeah, yeah,
one
yeah, yeah,
area of
yeah, yeah,
Bombay.
yeah, 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 yeah. So बहुत वक्त गुजार किया मैंने ऑटो में। तो ये तो मुझे क्या करें, ऐसे हुआ। फिर भी तभी ऐसे ऐसे हुआ,
So you
लेकिन
heard a lot of Jhankar beats.
yeah, a lot of Jankar beats, yeah, a lot of Jankar beats for sure. And so अलग अलग जगह में किसी से मिलने के लिए चले गए मैं, और अच्छा हुआ, और बहुत लोग मुझे वक्त दे दिया, अच्छा से, कोई तकलीफ नहीं हुआ, ऐसे हुआ।
You've been so humble. I mean, everything has been so nice. I mean, listening to you, it gives a feeling that it was such an easy ride for you. Not on the auto alone, but the entire writing the book.
well, नहीं, बात हुई कि ये प्रोजेक्ट, ये बॉलीवुड का बिहाइंड द कर्टन का प्रोजेक्ट मेरे हिसाब से, मेरे ख्याल से तो आसानी था।
Lovely.
और ये बताता हूं मैं कि उससे पहले वो काम, वो बाजा वाले के काम,
Yeah.
उसमें तकलीफ था।
I'll
उसमें
come to
तकलीफ।
that. I'll definitely
तो
come to that because that deserves a special
हाँ,
mention.
लेकिन
Yeah.
मेरे कहने का मकसद है कि इसी काम की वजह से मुंबई आए उसी जमाने में, उसी बॉलीवुड का काम में, तो मुझे तकलीफ नहीं हुआ, मुझे काफी आसानी लगा।
Mm-hmm.
इसलिए तो
Lovely. So your book ends at early 2000s
जी
as a time period.
हाँ
Um, yes, of course, there's been a lot of changes, a lot of paradigm shift in the
हम्म,
way
या
music is being produced, the musicians have been perceived, and everything. So, are you by any chance planning something beyond 2000? Is there anything that you think now, since you are in India, you keep traveling back to the country? How do you see music developed, film music developed in last 20 years?
20 years means 2000, huh? 2004, huh?
2004, yeah.
हाँ
Your book got published in 2008, right? This
हाँ हाँ
um,
2008,
this
हाँ
came out
2000,
in 2008.
हाँ।
Yeah.
बात हुई कि मेरे ख्याल से 2010 के बाद, 10 के बाद सब बदल गए। 2010 में 3G आए यहाँ पर,
Hmm. Hmm.
और 3G आके तो पूरी दुनिया आई
Hmm.
हमारे फोन पे।
Right.
मेरा भतीजे जैसे होते हैं जो यूपी में रहते हैं, अभी तक उनको बहुत पता नहीं हुआ न्यूजीलैंड कहाँ है, हमारे जगह कैसे होते हैं, दुनिया कैसे होते हैं, वगैरह वगैरह। 2010 के बाद सब उनको पता आया। क्यों
Technology.
कर क्यों कर वही था,
Hmm.
और इंटरनेट था। तो मेरे हिसाब से 2010 बाद सब बदल गए।
Hmm.
मतलब नेटफ्लिक्स आए, we started with Savan and Ghana and all those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now, Spotify is rolling on top of them.
Right.
And now we're part of the same world. We're all in the same world.
Hmm. Hmm.
2010 तलक थोड़ा सा दूर हुआ, थोड़ा सा दूरी हुआ।
Hmm.
ये बात शुरू किया बहुत सालों पहले नेहरू जी की जमाने में। उन
Hmm.
लोगों ने, आपको पता है, उन लोगों ने वो लाइसेंसिंग
Yeah.
सब कुछ बनाया, और
Right.
उसी वजह से ये उनका उनका इरादा नहीं था, लेकिन ऐसा हो गया कि इसी वजह से इंडिया थोड़ा सा बंद हो गया और
Hmm.
दुनिया आसानी से नहीं पहुंचा। इंडियन कल्चर के लिए ये तो बहुत अच्छी बात हुई,
Hmm.
बहुत अच्छी बात हुई। इसके बगैर तो सब बदल गया तभी।
Hmm.
लेकिन बंद करके तो we had Bollywood, and we
Hmm.
had Bollywood on its own without having to compete
Yeah.
like the rest of the world did. And इसी वजह से इतनी सालों के लिए बॉलीवुड आगे चले गए,
Hmm. Nice.
बदल गए। It always changed, but it was always at the forefront. And इसी वजह से मेरे ख्याल से अभी तक हम वो गाने जानते हैं,
Right.
because the foreign didn't come in so much as it did in so many other parts of the
Hmm.
world.
Hmm. Hmm.
And but after 2010, they opened the door and everybody walked in.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. So, are you still in touch with the musicians who are playing now, or uh, matlab, I know the legends. There are many people who have moved on
Yeah,
from
yeah,
this film.
yeah.
But there are still a lot of people who are still playing, who are doing that 8-hour shift and going into the studio, working. Yes, the patterns have changed. It's not
Yeah, yeah,
the singular linear pattern anymore. It's patches.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah. I'm in touch with some of them. I mean, as you say, it's changed a lot, and we no longer have, I mean, the 8 hour shift is the 2 hour come in, dub your
yeah,
part, go home
yeah,
shift.
yeah, yeah.
I
Right.
mean, it's a whole different thing. And frankly, nobody quite knows anymore what the value of music is. By which I
Mm,
mean, even as a commodity, no one knows. We
mm,
stream it and people get money for the stream, but there's a lot of confusion still. And the level of revenue being generated directly by music now,
mm.
I think is less than it used to be. I mean, in India, it was
Yeah.
only for a while. It was a period from about 1980 to about 2010.
Mm.
Those 30 years, music was sold a lot. But uske pehle, uske baad, come. So it's a very different world than it
I
was.
think now
So,
it's very decentralized because of the
yeah,
availability of platforms and
yeah,
live streamings and free access.
yeah.
But yeah, so revenue, yeah, you are right.
Yeah.
Revenue
I
is
was
one of
I
the.
was I was talking to a gentleman who was running Universal here in
Mm-hmm.
India. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was telling me people say, "I'll come and sing for free. मुझे मौका दे दो. कुछ
Mm-hmm.
मत दे दो. बस मौका दे दो."
Mm-hmm.
And that's unimaginable in the old days. And of course, people's tastes are also changing. I mean, of course, we all know this. In that time, you couldn't make a film without songs.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have so many films with songs are just one small niche
Yeah.
in a much bigger market. People watch this series of this and that on Netflix. We don't go to the movies with the theaters, or the very few theaters left. The whole, it's not a music industry anymore. It's an entertainment industry. ये बात है.
That's a good
You know,
one. And yes, a
you
very
know,
important and a
it's
poignant statement.
it's an entertainment industry,
Yeah.
and music इसमें आते हैं,
Hmm.
लेकिन it's not there by itself. So it's a very different world. And so the guys who are surviving on live performances, on some work in studios.
Yeah.
They're surviving on some independent recording, a lot of different kinds of things, corporate work,
Yeah. Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
things.
The events and all. Yeah.
Huh.
Awesome. There's so much. We can't just compile everything in 1 hour session
No,
because
no, no.
there's so much to learn. And every time I meet you, I have 100 more questions to ask. So we'll just take a break and move to the other book of yours, which is my
Awesome.
personal favorite as well. Why? Because it's a very small, cute little book, but it talks about something which is so important and it's ingrained in the society,
Mm,
but still we do not talk about it.
mm. Yeah,
All we think about when we talk about band is a shadi barat, you
yeah,
know, those heavy halogen lights on those people's head
yeah,
with the colorful headgear and the funny looking dresses and the
yeah,
brass instrument that they have in hand and a snare drum,
yeah,
bass drum, and that's about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What inspired you to write about this segment, brass baja?
Well, I was in. I can't. I found this when I was doing my doctoral research. I was still working on the tabla project, and I
Hmm.
was in Varanasi, and
Hmm.
it was, I guess, March or something, so it was wedding season.
Hmm.
And I would see these guys on the street.
Hmm.
And when I was in high school and when I was in university, I was in a marching band because, and as a music student, that's one of the things you do. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a very different marching band, but it was a marching band.
Hmm.
And so I had a little थोड़ा सा शौक हुआ मुझे इसी वजह से, लेकिन इन लोगों को देख के तो मुझे बहुत हैरान, ये ट्रम्पट कैसे बजा रहे हैं, ये यूनिफॉर्म वर्दी ऐसे पहनते हैं क्यों, और ये सब क्या हो रहे हैं, मुझे बिल्कुल नहीं समझ गए। तो मैंने तभी सोचा था कि मेरी डॉक्टरेट की काम खार के तो मैं वापस आऊंगा यहाँ पर और इसी में कोच करूंगा। और तो इत्तेफाक की वजह से, गॉड की वजह से, I was it was possible for me to come back, and I came back in '88, and I started looking into this, and it took me forever because that's why I say the Bombay Project was easy, because nobody in India, as you say, knew anything about those guys.
Yeah, yeah.
I told Alaraka Khan Sahab that's what I had come to do, and he looked at me, how he looked. I mean, ye kya? I mean, those guys, but uh, but nobody knew anything.
Yeah.
And they weren't guys, first of all, who spoke any English. So, and they didn't even know if
Oh,
I said
yeah.
I was writing a book, they said they didn't have any understanding of what even that meant, writing a book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so and they weren't used to people talking to them, let alone foreigners talking to
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
So there was no way to do interviews. And they were busy a lot of the time anyway. And so it was a complete, and they couldn't even tell you really what the whole country was like. I started in Lucknow just by coincidence because I knew some people there. And the guys in Lucknow could tell me about Kanpur, and they could tell me a little bit about Varanasi and something, something. But they couldn't tell me about Mumbai. They couldn't tell me about
Absolutely. Oh,
Kasau.
wow.
They couldn't even barely tell me about Kolkata. So what that meant was I ended up going to all those places.
Yeah.
And
That
so
was my next question, actually. Yeah,
oh
please
yeah, it was
continue.
it was
Please
terrible.
continue. Yeah.
I mean, I was here for a year, the first year, 88 and 89. And then when we shifted to Auckland, to New Zealand, and then I started coming back. So I came back in 93, and I came back in 94 and 5, and I came back in 96. And I came back and I came back and I came back, because there was always someplace else to go. And I had no understanding of whether what I was experiencing in Mumbai, for example, was what was happening in Hyderabad, or whether the guys who worked in Kolkata ever went to Delhi, or where they had learned or how it had started. Don't tell anybody. I even went to Pakistan,
Oh, wow.
because Lahore in the
I
old
remember that. Yeah.
was a very important part of the band business.
Band business.
So I kept coming and coming and coming, and we'd be going to strange places. It wasn't just the cities. I'd be going to, villages out in, Karnataka to talk to the guys who were their father and the people who had been playing like that. And then, we went to Bijapur, and I was in a place called Raichur down there. And, I went to Jaora, if you know where Jaora is. Um, because it was a very famous bandmaster who lived there, and guys come from that, in Bihar and all sorts of places. So there was a lot of traveling, a lot of traveling, and in all sorts of modes, a lot of buses, a lot of trains, because this is still
And we are talking about before Bisleri era.
this is still ambassador time. So so there was a lot of traveling. It was a crazy project, and I really finished writing it, I finished writing it even as I was just starting the film project, was when it finally, because it didn't come out, I think, until 2005, that book. So I was writing it right up to the end.
2005. Yeah.
Yeah. And I still don't exactly feel like it was done but I decided at some point I just couldn't go everywhere,
Oh, I mean, I'll definitely urge the audience to please go. If you can put your hand on the book, it's available on Amazon. It's a revelation because, suddenly when you now look at the Bharat with those halogen lights and those men in, poor looking men playing such amazing song on a trumpet or a saxophone or drums, suddenly the entire perspective changes And then
Mm,
you also think about the history that you have mentioned in the book,
mm,
the naval connection, the army connection, and then coming to the local grassroots level bands which are available.
mm.
Thanks to a few bands like Sham Band of Jabalpur, who have
Mhm.
done, India's Got Talent, and they've
Yeah.
gotten good recognition. And Manoj Bhai has been a part of Manorida's team, so
Mm.
a bit of recognition here and there. But still, uh, as you rightly said, Bollywood is in Bombay.
Yeah.
So your behind the curtains was happening in Bombay,
Huh.
but this was happening everything beyond Bombay.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere. I mean, yeah, you are rightly saying that, there's no end to it. I mean, for all you know, a Sangli and a Ahmednagar will have two different style of
Yeah. Yeah.
bands with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah.
So this is a huge contribution to Indian music, sir, because this is not just writing a book. This is not just about book. This is about bringing out the culture which was shouting from the roof that, talk
Yeah.
about me.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much for this.
No, no, no. I mean, it was a good project to do because, as you're saying, those guys are mostly migrant workers. They come
Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah,
some small village or someplace for the season. They don't get paid a lot, and it's very hard work.
yeah.
And
So at one point, brass is completely associated with jazz, which is so polished and so suave.
mm,
And then on the other side, we have the Indian bands, which is playing the brass,
ah,
who probably have not even held or the instrument before playing it live, because they need to earn their livelihood out of it.
yeah, yeah,
So what a drastic contrast of
yeah,
culture here.
yeah,
Wow.
very much. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so if we move on, and if
Ah,
we, you have already talked a lot in detail about the Indian culture and how you've adapted to it, and how you. So this love for Indianness or the Indian Bhartiyata,
ah.
ये along with the job आया, या फिर you were always into Indian ways of
No,
things?
no. मैंने शुरुआत में मैंने तबला बजाता था और मैं
Ah,
इंडिया के बारे में थोड़ा सा जानता था लेकिन बहुत नहीं हुआ और जब मैं यहाँ पर आया तो मैं तभी कुछ नहीं जानता था इंडिया के बारे में
hmm.
आ, वो बात धीरे धीरे आए और काफी लोग कहते हैं मुझे यू मस्ट लव इंडिया you must love India if you're coming all this time. And I don't even know how to answer that question.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, मुझे लगता है मैं प्लेन से निकलता हूँ मुझे घर लगता है अपना.
अरे वाह, how sweet.
It's not whether I love it or I don't love it. It's part of my life. Um, I do feel, especially in Mumbai,
Hmm.
kind of like I'm home.
Awesome.
I mean, as very strange as that seems, nevertheless, that's kind of how it is. And
Yeah,
I don't, I go all sorts of places, UP,
yeah, yeah.
it's gotten to be something else, but it's not. So and like everybody, like you, and like everybody else in India, there are some parts of India that I like, and some things about India I don't like, and fair, why not? But it's just part of our life, and
Awesome.
that's kind of how it is. So it's that way.
So sweet. I mean, this conversation can just get into so many dimensions and so amazing. I'll not take much of your time, but there's this one part which I want to touch upon. We are
Hmm.
talking about author's corner. We are talking about writing.
Huh,
So I want to discuss a few things about writing
huh,
with you. To begin with, every culture has its own localized grammar, style of writing, and everything. When you are writing a book which is so universal and for the universal audience, how do you make sure that that language is being taken care of, and how do you maintain that
huh.
with your writing?
बहुत अच्छी बात है आपकी. बात है कि मैं प्रोफेसर हूं ना तो मैं यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़ाता हूँ. मैं एकेडमिक हूँ. आई एम एन
Hmm.
एकेडमिक.
Hmm.
और अफसोस की बात है कि आमतौर पर हम लोग हमारी सर्कल में हमारे लोगों के लिए लिखते हैं हमारी ऑडियंस है वो 10, 20, 50 लोगों जो हैं जो अलग अलग यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़ाते हैं हमारे जैसे होते हैं.
The cerebral
हाँ.
audience.
और ये तो मुझे पसंद नहीं आते हैं लेकिन ऐसे ही होते हैं. और especially when I was writing the filmy book.
Hmm.
I mean, the brass band book, nobody, वो लोग कभी नहीं पढ़ेंगे क्योंकि
नहीं पढ़ेंगे,
अंग्रेजी नहीं
right.
आते हैं उनको. तो कैसे पढ़ेंगे और किताब कहाँ मिलेंगे और ये सब कुछ भी.
Yeah,
लेकिन
right.
the filmy book was a little bit different. And मेरे ख्याल, writing that book, I was very aware that I wanted to write something that the guys that I'd been talking to could at least read part of.
Right,
Some of that,
right,
some of Behind the Curtain has got, history, theory, and stuff in it, but not too much. And
right,
I try not to write it like that
right.
because I don't want to write just for the 50 or 100 other professors who are in my field.
Yeah.
And by the grace of God, a little bit that's happened certainly in Behind the Curtain partly because of the topic. The topic is a topic that appeals to people. So I'm very happy, that people in India have read that book or at least looked at it. And,
Here it is.
acha.
See? What an amazing book this
Wohi hai,
is.
wohi hai. So it's like that, but you do have to be careful about that.
Yeah.
But that's also just my personal, I don't like the big words so much. I'm very unusual like that. And frankly, not all of my colleagues think that's good, but nevertheless.
And also, when you are going to a different country
Ah,
and writing about their industry segment, which is
ah,
just such a popular industry, which is both financially as well as culturally so impactful.
ah.
How does the local culture surroundings influence or impact your writing, or should impact your writing?
Well, you have to, like one of the things, I talked in Kersi because there were stories that came, in the film line. And sometimes people would say, don't put this in the book.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
and so I would not put that in the book. So you want to write so the people you're writing about will be happy to read it and wouldn't be upset about what you're saying about them. There's stuff that's happened, places that conversations have been, most people are well lovely. Every once in a while you get somebody who's not so, a little bit, but it doesn't matter. They're giving you their time anyway, and you have to respect that. I tend to write, and I talk a lot about this at the beginning of the book. I do put by and G and all those other things in my book.
Right. Yeah.
Because for example, it's a small choti si baat hai, fir bhi, because that's how we talk.
Yeah.
And especially in the film line and especially in the classical line, that's how people talk.
Yeah.
And you can say I was raised like that, and Zakir Bai was very outstanding for the respect he had for other people.
Oh,
And
yes.
and I learned that from him and from Abaji. So that's a thing, so you just have to think about what are the expectations of the people you're talking to.
Awesome. Any three suggestions or three pointers for the budding writers
Oh
that
God.
they should keep in mind?
Well, one of the things I think I've said this to you before, there are so many stories in India that need to be told. There are so many stories. I have a good friend in Delhi, and she and I have a joke about this because every time we see each other, we think of another story that needs to be told that nobody's telling. So the important thing about writing is you're writing a story, and you want people to read it, and you want people to understand it.
Right.
That's the bottom line. And so you have to think about who you're writing for. You're not writing for yourself, you're writing for the people who are going to read it. And however that works out, that's the most important thing.
And you touched upon a small point, but very important point. Writers should think about micro or macro. How does that work? Do you, as you rightly said, that India has so many stories. Between you and me, we probably have like 108 stories to help
बिल्कुल.
with one,
Yeah,
one instruction or something.
we can sit down
So,
in the afternoon.
micro or macro, how does this work, and how does the approach for writing takes place there?
Well, they have to both be there. They have
Hmm.
to both be there. You
Hmm.
have to, the story is a micro story.
Hmm.
I mean, if I can take his name, Kakaji, who lives in GP Nagar, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a story.
Hmm.
It's a micro story, but it's a story,
Yeah.
right? And that whole thing, there's a story there.
Hmm.
But just telling about him
Hmm.
doesn't do it because he exists in the macro, as you say. He exists in the big picture. So you have to have the micro, but you have to micro, you're just writing words.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you need the details, you need the real specifics of that story.
Right.
But then you need to be able to connect that little story because
Universal.
to the universal, or at least
Hmm.
something bigger than just one
Hmm.
guy who lives in this particular part of Bombay and is a fan of Naushad Saab. You have to be able to move it out from there.
So this just reminds me of one line of Sahir. कौन
हाँ,
रोता है यहाँ किसी और की खाते रहे दोस्त,
अरे,
सबको
हाँ,
अपनी ही किसी बात पे रोना आया.
हाँ, वाह, हाँ, या,
Right, so that's
बेशक,
that's the that's the connection of micro and macro, I would
बिल्कुल,
be able to. Wow, there's so much, you and we can keep talking
या,
throughout the
या,
day.
या,
One last question, which I would like to end the session with, which is, what next from here? What's on plate next? What should
well,
we expect from the Gregory Booth
oh,
magic dust now?
expect मत करो. Uh,
ठीक है, नहीं करती.
um, well, as you know, I've been increasingly fascinated by what I'm thinking of as the place of film song in Indian life.
Yeah.
The Antakshari, the Bhajan Mandals, the guys
Hmm.
on the trains, the young
Hmm.
man who plays on the street here in Bandra, in
Yeah.
Palinaka, all these kinds of things. So I'm very
Hmm.
interested in that. Um, but I've been distracted now because I think it looks well, I think more than think. I'm writing a book. I'm
Hmm.
going to try and write a book about Zakir Singh.
Wow.
So um, not a biography exactly, but something.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm working on. So I'm kind of working on that at the moment more. I'm still working on film song, but I'm trying to balance them, which is a terrible
Awesome.
situation to be in because you can't do two things at once. At least I can't at this age. But nevertheless, I'm trying.
I'm sure you'll do a great job, sir, because we've seen what's come out of
God
your
willing.
kitty.
God willing.
No, no, tathastu, inshallah.
Inshallah. Allah
Thank
Ta'ala.
you so much. I mean,
Huh.
you've given your valuable time. I know
No,
you're
no.
absolutely time pressed because you're trying to fit in so many things in this each
Yeah,
trip of
yeah.
yours.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I'm just grateful that you agreed to do this with us,
No,
and I will just call Sapna Di on Spotlight because she's been doing a great job, and I'm sure she would like to have a
oh,
one word or two with you as well.
Thank you, Kalpana, for a wonderful conversation with Gregory sir. And it's it's amazing to know how much is there to explore. You know,
uh,
how much is there to talk about in this small little topic which nobody bothers about, like a
yeah.
bandwalas,
Uh,
these sitarists or people who are behind the camera, behind the scenes, making our music industry such a big industry.
yeah.
Because without them, this industry cannot survive, I must say that. You know, uh, a single solo lyricist can do nothing without that musician who is curating that music. A
Yeah, yeah.
wonderful job, Gregory. Amazing conversation. There's still a few things which come to my mind, and especially now when we are meeting in a digital Zindagi themed UBI Fest.
Yeah.
Do you think this whole digitalization has helped or has deteriorated the, whole concept and the music and everything. It might
Um,
sound very weird, but yeah, this is something which comes to my mind.
I don't, well, I frankly, I mean, the digital thing helps for something like this, right? You couldn't have this kind of a thing is, I think, the best kind of thing that can happen on Zoom, or this kind of a platform, because this way you can reach everybody around the world. And Kalpana does some of these things in the music side. And,
Yeah,
people, I can tune in from New Zealand to listen to it
true,
if I'm awake, or somebody can listen from the States. So that's an amazing thing.
true.
So I think that's really helpful. The idea of the digital community, I think, is really very important for us in the way the world is. I've been interviewing people who are here in Mumbai on Zoom or on WhatsApp because it's easier for me to do it on Zoom and easier for them than for me to ride an hour out to Thane and sit in their house for an hour and then ride back for an hour.
Sure.
So Puro Kapana sometimes has to do it, in which she suffers the hard line. But so there's a lot of good things about it, but I'm not sure it's good for music. I think we stay home now. I think you want to hear music, you get on YouTube or you get on Spotify or you get on Savan or Jobiho, and you do that. And you can stay home, you can get takeout, get somebody to deliver Zomato to deliver it, and bus.
Sit
And it's
down.
very comfortable. And the way the world is, traveling around in Mumbai is not always easy. In some cities in India, it's very difficult. In Delhi, God forbid. But it's very hard. So, I mean, we're going to a concert tonight down at, I told you, down in Bharata Vidya
Yeah,
Bhavan.
Yeah.
And so it's going to take, that's an
Two
adventure.
hours.
It's
Yeah.
not a big adventure and Uber is there and it's fine. But still, it's not like I could sit home and watch a concert on YouTube. And if I wait till 2 days from now, that concert will be on YouTube, probably. You
Yeah.
know, so I don't think it helps the live performance. I don't think it, frankly, helps music
absolutely.
as a thing. But, I mean, we, the world has changed and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, I've been to, Swaigandav, the festival
Pune.
there in Pune.
Pune.
You sit there all night, that
Yeah,
thing, that whole thing,
come together. It's
and that those experiences now are no more
absolutely.
because we don't have the patience or the time for them. And we have choices. If we want to stay up all night and listen to music, we can stay in bed and watch the music from there.
Yeah.
And because we have the choices, the world changes. And there's nothing we can do, but that's what's going to happen. But I don't think it necessarily helps the music,
Mhm.
frankly,
Absolutely.
is my feeling. But we'll see what happens. You know,
And as I say, we as a community, we do a lot of work. As you said, Kalpana also has been doing a lot of good work in this field.
Hmm.
Any guidance from your side as a community builder? What else can we do, and how we can build more community? Because we have a music and dance lovers group, which is on
Yeah,
Facebook, and we do conduct sessions online. There are sometimes on ground sessions and all, but
yeah.
personally I feel at times there are so many musicians or so many music lovers sitting over there. They want to learn, or they want to do something in this field.
Yeah.
Anything which you can uh, bring in or help us, or suggest what we can do to
Well,
help.
yeah, it gets very, you're sort of talking yourself into a university, or you're talking yourself, as I listen to you speak, into that space, because it's true. A lot of people are very interested in these kind of things, and they want to know more about the things that they like, that they really enjoy, that mean something to them. So this kind of thing really helps that. I think it also helps if you combine it with some things that are real, that are live, so to speak,
Yeah, yeah.
with actual in
Hybrid.
person, you
Yeah.
know? because then I'm thinking of that thing that just happened in Goa the other day, right?
Yeah.
Right? They it makes the human connection, and the human connection.
Yeah.
Speaking of that movie about the Lords, but there's that human connection that really matters
Yeah.
because this is music, because the music, especially, and dance, but music, I think maybe more, is about emotion, and it's about enjoy, and it's about sharing that. And oh, that song really means something to me, but oh, here's this other person and it means something to them as well. And we're sharing that emotion. And you want some of that to be in person,
Yeah.
so I think we're at the beginning of this whole business of online and all this kind of thing that you're doing. And I think we're still learning how to do it in a way that is actually most satisfying for everybody.
Right.
And I think part of that's going to turn out to be how you combine the digital with the in person.
The hybrid mode.
Hybrid
Ah,
Yeah.
wait. Ah,
model.
Wow. Thank you so much. It was indeed such a pleasure having you here. And as I rightly said, I mean, this is just the beginning. There's lots that we have to discuss about, and
ah,
there's lots that we have to work on. And
mm,
I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful journey ahead. And we really, really look forward to your more of writing because,
all right.
it's not just about words, it's about the expression of emotions, and it's about the telling the story, as you rightly said,
Yeah.
because every writing, every piece of writing is a story.
Yeah.
And if we are able to connect with the audience through the emotions that it wants to convey, it the work is done. And your
That's,
stories are not just beautiful, they are very musical as well.
oh,
So
very
thank you
kind
so
of
much.
very kind of you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Tan.
much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
And
Gregory and Kalpana, both of you. In fact, thanks a ton
Ah,
for such
our
a
pleasure,
wonderful.
our pleasure.
yeah,
And I would
absolutely.
just like to reiterate to the audience, this is a 15 days celebration program that's happening for UBI, which is turned 8 today. And tomorrow is actually the birthday of
Ah,
UBI community. So lots happening. And if you wish to be a part of this 15-day celebration, we have marathons happening, we have writing marathons happening, we have singers marathons are also available. There are a lot of interesting things that's been planned. You can connect with me or Sapnadi directly, or just write on the page, UBI page, or the group that we have on Facebook and YouTube, and somebody from the team will definitely connect with you to be a part of the session. So with this, we end the session for the day, Author's Corner. Thank you so much once again, and may we just
Yes,
stay
we'll meet
connected and
again.
united by ink forever.
very good.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thanks
you.
Bye.
again. And today
Take care.
evening, another half 1 hour later, we have a session on organ donation
Oh
today.
yeah, I'm
So if
sorry, forgot on that.
whoever would like to be a part of that session on YouTube, you will have to connect on YouTube, same YouTube channel. And we would love to hear from you if you have any questions, because there is a panel coming who will be a knowledgeable panel to answer many queries, any questions in mind. Feel free to ask over there. Thank you, Greg. Thank
Okay,
you,
thank
Kalpana, once
you.
again. I think
Thank you. Thank you
Greg
so
will
much.
say
Take
Hello.
bye bye
care.
from
Bye
YouTube.
bye.
See you
Bye
for
bye.
YouTube again in an hour's time.